A couple of days ago, the GSL Code S qualifiers for the third season of this year took place. In case you're unfamiliar, the GSL Code S is considered to be the most prestigious StarCraft 2 tournament over in South Korea. And generally, I've noticed over the last couple of seasons that whenever there is another qualifier going on, suddenly a bunch of the guys that I haven't seen play this game in ages decide to sign up again. Now, it turns out that this particular match right here, this best of 3 series, is a qualification match. The winner of this particular series is going to be part of the GSL Code S for the upcoming season that will be starting up very soon. Now, I'm smiling here, as you may have already heard in my voice, because of the man right here in the top left-hand corner. He's a previous multiple world champion of StarCraft 2. Playing him with the red Protoss pieces, we're looking inside of the main base of sOs, one of the trickiest Protoss players of all time. And his opponent in the opposite corner, playing him with the blue Zerg drones. One of my all-time favorite Zergs. I actually modeled my playstyle that I play myself on the ladder quite a bit after this man right here. We're looking inside of the main base of soO. So soO versus sOs. I mean, if you've been watching this game, if you've been playing this game for some time, you're probably well familiar with them. Because historically speaking, they're some of the most successful pro gamers that we've ever had. So sOs ended up winning the WCS Global Finals in 2013. That was the World Championships. He won the IEM World Championships in 2014. And then he also won the WCS Global Finals in 2015. In total, this Protoss player here has won $650,000 in tournament earnings alone. Now, sadly for him, back in the early days of StarCraft 2, the prize pools for tournaments were a little bit lower. I mean, you know, it's still like 100 grand for each and every one of the ones that I just mentioned, but there's no denying that a couple years later, the prize pools got like 3 times as big. Regardless, sOs, one of the most successful Protoss players of all time, and I honestly haven't seen him play. I mean, I've seen him play a couple times this year, but I think he literally played like 5 series or so. I think I casted one of them where he went up against Innovation, who I have not seen compete in anything ever since that particular match. He wrapped up his military service some time ago, just like soO, and I guess occasionally they still try their hand at playing some StarCraft, and I guess for the both of them, it's kind of like riding a bike, right? Like they may be putting a bit of practice in here and there, but it's just a skill that you don't unlearn that quickly. Now, soO, quick reminder of why he is very well known. First and foremost, this is a bit of a sad statistic, but soO was known to be the king of second place. He would usually, whenever he would play in a tournament, make it to second place. For some reason, repeatedly, over and over and over again, he did not win the tournament, but he would get second place. Now, in the end, back in 2019, he did take down IEM Kijkwijzer for $150,000, which is not bad whatsoever. And, you know, despite all of the second places, he still has got over $625,000 in tournament earnings. But I think if he would have won every single one of these events that he got second place in, I think soO would probably be at least one of the contenders of greatest StarCraft 2 player of all time. I think if he would have won every single second place that he's got, right? If he wouldn't have won the tournament instead, he probably would be considered the GOAT by many players. Anyways, soO did play a little bit more in tournaments this year compared to sOs, but really it's only just a handful of games. Now, getting to this particular qualification match, obviously you have to take down a bunch of players as well along the way, and it turns out that both of these guys ended up taking down the same players. It's a double elimination format, and apparently they ended up facing off against the same players, which is kind of interesting. So both of them, first off, they took down, most notably, I guess, TY, another player who I have not seen play in quite a bit. One, of course, of the very best Terran players that we've historically had, and apparently he also decided to sign up for the GSL qualifier. And then the both of them also took down Creator. Now, Creator is one of the very best Protoss players in the world currently, so at the very least that should show us that both sOs and soO are currently good at the game. Either that or Creator was having an off day, but I don't know. I have no idea what to expect from this series, but I figured since I saw both of these names that a lot of you are probably interested as well to find out what ended up going down. Now, right from the get-go, like I said, sOs, he's a bit of a trickster. What in the world is this? It's a 2-base fleet beacon opener? Okay. So everything's pretty normal right here on the side of the Zerg, although he did hit a bit of a supply block right now because of this Overlord killing one of his, this Void Ray rather, killing one of his Overlords. Is this 2-base carrier? Is that what we've got right here? Yeah, it's 2-base carrier. Sure. So sOs, I've said this before in previous videos, right? So sOs in general, seems to be a player who is very good at the game when there's a new patch that comes rolling around. So whenever there's a new patch in StarCraft 2, and it suddenly seems like a lot of strategies are viable again, he is the type of player you want to be looking for as far as like creative threats go. Because as a patch is around for longer and longer and longer, that may actually explain some of the, you know, tournament results that we've had over the couple of years that have, well, just taken place. I think as long as a patch is fresh, Protoss is capable of throwing around a couple tricks and getting some wins here and there, but the longer a patch is around for, the easier it is for players to figure out what they need to do against certain strategies, and suddenly, well, those threats that are considered quite cheesy will be countered. Anyways, we find ourselves right here on Gresvin. sOo has absolutely no clue about what's going on. sOs has cleared the path over here on the right side of the map as well with that Void Ray of his. So I don't think sOs is gonna show these carriers until they're already on the other side of the map. The main tell right here for sOo is that the third is very late. So maybe he can pick up on something there, but this is the first time that he sees it. It is time to panic. Lara is not even done yet. sOs immediately, or sorry, sOo immediately. The nicknames are kind of the same, I guess. Anyways, sOs is engaging right now, and sOo immediately queues up a whole lot of queens, as many as he can afford, but he needs something more reliable. You don't really have any use on just queens alone. They will buy you time, but what you really need is corruptors. Corruptors are the ultimate answer against carriers. Very soon, 2 more will be joining in the fray as well. It's gonna be Glaive Adepts on the back of this. This is sOs, okay? If you would have covered up the nicknames, I probably would have guessed sOs. This man is an absolute trickster. I love watching his games, because, I mean, it seems horrible to play against, but I do love watching his games, because there's no denying that. Look at his third base. The third base is basically fake. He's only got 47 workers. He doesn't have the saturation to do any work over here. Third Nexus was super late. This is essentially a 2-base all-in with a third Nexus, where the man has rushed out 4 carriers and is now getting Glyph the depths going. Now, obviously, he knows, sOs that is, that sOo is going to be making the transition here towards either Hydras or Corruptors. And it turns out that Glaive the Depths are pretty great against both of them, because Corruptors can't shoot down, and Hydras, well, they're light units. That's exactly the unit that the Adept would like to take care of, and this third base is in a world of trouble. Oh, no. Yeah, so sOo had no clue. Could he have scouted it? Honestly, not really. Because of that Void Ray first, which is also quite clever, the scouts got denied, right? Like, those overlords got sniped. So if you wanted to go for an overlord scout, you would essentially need to get lucky. It's sOs who wins in game number 1. Babylon is gonna be game number 2. Interestingly enough, sOs decides to go for a gateway scout over here. Relatively old school approach. I honestly have no idea how good these guys truly are, right? Like, it's very hard for me to judge. And sometimes I guess when you're playing these qualifiers, you also just need a bit of a lucky bracket where you're not facing off against like Dark, Maru, Hero, and all the rest of it, right? Like, I mean, obviously you're always gonna have to win. You're always gonna have to win a couple of games, but sometimes it is the luck of the draw, depending on who ends up being in your qualification bracket. But anyways, this scout over here with the gateway, it feels very old school to me. Generally speaking, we see scouts right now at the very start of the game, or, well, a little bit later. I mean, gateway scout is nothing all too crazy, of course. It's something we see all of the time. But it does strike me as something that is considered to be a little bit older, a little bit more old school. I wonder how much these guys have actually played the game recently. You know what I mean? Like, this is something that we used to see maybe a half year ago in a lot of games, right? Back in the day, it was basically every single game. But these days, generally, the Probe Scout goes across, well, a bit sooner, a little bit before this. Anyhow, it does mean, though, that sOo just gets his natural expansion down on the low ground. He's forced to micro against his probe for a little bit, but rapid fire makes that relatively easy. Cybercore is going to finish up here in just a moment. We'll have to see what sort of tech sOs wants to go for. In the current meta, of course, we gotta re-rally this Nexus. Okay. There we go. In the current meta, of course, it's gonna be a Stargate 9 out of 10 games. sOs, however, fires up the Warp Gate research. Could just be a fake out right here for sOo, who's gonna continuously pay attention to this. It is not a fake out, as he decides to go for a Twilight Council, straight up. Twilight Council in the current meta is pretty popular, especially when you block your opponent's natural expansion, and that's one of the reasons why we do see those probe scouts very early on, oftentimes, it is much better to play a Twilight Council straight up, especially if you want to go Glaive Adepts, if the opponent has their third base taken as the very first expansion. The problem here for Zerg is usually if there's a Glaive Adept push, right? They will not be entirely comfortable yet defending the third, the natural, and the main base. Whereas if you have the third base taken first, generally speaking, you can, well, just, you have a harder time defending against Glaive Adepts in particular. And this does, maybe not. Yeah, this does strike me as a Glaive Adept opener. So it is. Now, this could be a 700 IQ mind game right here for SOS. It could be either really smart or really dumb. You know what I mean? Like, either him faking out the early probe scout and going for a gateway move out may very well put SOS into a position where sOo assumes that this is going to be a Stargate opener instead. If it is a Stargate opener, we should be we should see Spore Crawlers here in just a moment. So this would be the moment where sOo should add them on. He can also just wait, I guess, with the queens here. Yeah, so he's adding on 2 more queens, which is an excellent choice against basically whatever the Protoss has got going for him here. But even after that game number 1, sOo is not gonna go for any sort of scouting here with an Overlord. Obviously, he knows that this Overlord lives, and at this point, 4 minutes into the game, he must realize as well that this is not an Oracle opener. He's got some good vision over here around the map as well, by the way. Lovely little bit of movement as well with those Zerglings. He sees the timing or lack thereof of the third base, and that's big. Yeah, he immediately fires up non-stop unit production. Excellent move here. Did he get a glimpse of the prism there? It doesn't really matter all too much. All he really needs to do is just defend. This is not going to be with Dark Templar on the back of this, but yep, love this. sOo still prepares for it. So he doesn't know if this is going to be Dark Templar on the back of this, but this is not a timing for Spore Crawlers where it would counter an Oracle opener. Maybe it would counter a carrier start, I don't know. But it's good against a Dark Templar follow-up after this very first Glaive Adept aggression. Really clean defense here by sOo. Lovely work. Perfect amount of drones, exactly where you want to be. Not overreacting. I like the single gas as well. He did evacuate the third base too, so it makes the base defense a little bit easier. You should try and target fire with the queens. Okay, now you're gonna commit here. Yeah, you have to commit here with these adepts. The more often that these adepts can shade around, the better it is. But the problem is, Protoss is also on a bit of a timer. Very soon, roaches are gonna be out, and obviously Zerg has had a nice eco for a while. He needs to kill a lot more workers than this to justify it. Main problem here is that Zerg is gonna immediately capitalize on this after defending and counterattack. At least that's what they usually do. Okay, this could still be really good though for Protoss. Okay, now he gets a mineral line. There it is. Yeah, I'm not sure why I didn't go for the... Oh, I guess the prism. That's actually really sloppy. Not sure why he did not decide to go for the hatch block at the start of the game. Did he just... I'm gonna back up. Sorry, I did not even think about him just flying the prism straight over the queens. What just happened here? I think he army hotkeyed it. Yeah, I think he just hit the army hotkey and he just decided to attack move over here, and the prism happened to be over there and it just flew over all of those queens. Okay. Well, recall at the very least, yeah, is gonna be utilized there, but sOo now gets to be in the driver's seat for the foreseeable future. I guess he can't really counterattack very aggressively because there's no third base here yet, and pushing up the ramp is gonna be a bit difficult. But droning up is certainly a good choice. Okay, he's gonna commit to the wraparound. Yeah, a lot of these units are low on shield still, and if you kill this, then suddenly this third nexus is gonna be difficult as well to pull off. Disruptors on the back of this here by Mr. SOS. So we're going Glaive Adepts into RoboBay. Interesting. It's like, apparently he's a big fan of the Glaive Adept right now. It's like going carriers into Glaive Adepts, I suppose. Very interesting. I really hope that these guys decide to pick the game back up though. So, I played a lot of games back in the day in particular after what sOo used to do. So I used to study sOo's replays more so than any other Zerg because he never really plays spellcasters. sOo has always been a macro guy, right? Like he usually... He swarms the map with loads of units, and he doesn't really focus on spellcasters as much. Now, the reason why he doesn't focus on spellcasters is because he just enjoys playing that style a little bit better. The reason why I don't focus on spellcasters that much is because I suck at the game. It turns out microing all of those different units at the same time is not necessarily what I'm great at. I'm pretty good at, like, mechanical skill, and I'm pretty good when it comes to, like, macroing and getting to a decent work account. But I always really liked what sOo did, especially back in the day where he would... Okay, well, now he spoiled the surprise. I always liked what he did when it came to, yeah, just the straight up swarmy styles instead. So a lot of my builds were the ones that sOo used to play back in the day. So it'd be cool if he decides to play this game a little bit more actively as well. And you know what? If he ends up winning the series, there certainly is a chance that that ends up happening. Maybe that's actually the reason why these guys are trying out their qualifiers. Like maybe they play a couple games and they're like, yeah, I live close to where the qualifiers take place. For a while, they were also played online, although I don't know if that's the case currently. Either way, yeah, may as well give it a try. And then if I end up qualifying, that's when I start putting into practice. That may be some of the mindset as well. Because obviously, there's still a good chunk of money on the line for these tournaments as well. And these guys know that over in Korea, the amount of competitors is relatively small compared to where it used to be like 5, 6, 7 years ago. And it's not something you're just gonna unlearn, right? I guess it's kind of like riding a bicycle. As long as you're kind of aware of what the mechanics are like, you'll probably be able to pull it off, even if you haven't done it in many, many years. Like, these guys will never be stuck in Diamond League anymore, okay? It's not gonna happen. These guys will always be Grandmasters. Even in like 10 years' time, if they haven't touched the game in ages, they will still be able to skyrocket to the top of the ladder pretty easily. Just because of, well, the mechanical skill. Again, it's something that you won't really unlearn. Sometimes actually taking a break from the game can be very beneficial. Now, what is this over here, SOS? What are we doing right now? We're, again, only at 47 workers. So for all intents and purposes, this is, again, a 2-base all-in with a 3rd Nexus. Like, this is not an economy that you can really write home about. It is certainly leading towards another all-in. There's no way that he can play the macro game here, because SOS is gonna skyrocket and outgrow him very quickly. So he is on a timer. It's critical here that SOS does not sit back for too long, but I guess he wants to wait until the extended thermal lens is done here. So this kind of strikes me as a Wings of Liberty all-in, right? Like, look at this. It's Immortal, Colossus Sentry with a bunch of Stalkers and whatever leftover units we had. He does not have Blink. He does not have... This Forge is no good. Like, if he decides to make a Forge right now, it indicates to me he wants to get upgrades going. But by the time any upgrade can finish up, sOo will be able to remax about 7 times. Brenda, no! Oh, okay. Brenda turns out to be on roller skates. So she slid towards the high ground there. Now, the Disruptor value here has been kind of amazing, though. 18 kills on that one Disruptor over here. Good force fields as well. SOS's army supply is massive. 86 versus 82. Obviously, Zerg can outproduce him, yeah, but does he? I think going Mass Roach here at this point in the game is a great choice. There is one Immortal in the mix. And obviously one Disruptor as well, so maybe a bunch of Zerglings is not a bad call. Those Colossi are putting in some work though. I mean, we really need to retarget it to something a little bit more useful. You can always evacuate this base and just... Yeah, I think this is the right call. Just try and mine the minerals at the bottom and try to take control of this high ground here. So you can rain those biles. The hatchery is not really that important in the grand scheme of things. Yeah, just start mining this base down here at the bottom and take control over here. So SOS is actually mixing in some additional workers here. He's also going into, well, there you go, the Forge upgrade and the additional Colossus production. This Zerg base over here, though, like all of this economy here, it's a ticking time bomb for SOS. Like, if he leaves this Zerg player alone for just a minute, he's gonna be maxed out for sure. There's really no way that sOo will not be maxed out. He's finishing up his own +1 melee right now, and with this many links, that is gonna be very handy. At this point, that Warp Prism harassment is no longer just nice, it's starting to become a critical component here. Don't lose your Prism a second time, please. I mean, it looks very buyable. I was gonna say, this is something that the Zerg probably could have at the very least attempted. Alright, so +1 ground weapons into charge and blink. It's gonna finish up all eventually, but it's so incredibly late compared to the current meta. Bailing Rollby ready to come in. Looks like the Prism at the very least. He's trying to jump it. Viper coming up, which I quite like. The Viper here is mostly just, even though he's not really a spellcaster kind of guy, don't roll your Banes into rocks, please. It's, yeah, something that is a necessity against this type of unit composition. Bailing's in the meantime destroying a mineral line on the other side of the map, and that is gonna make this all-in from SOS even more all-in. I mean, it's all-inner. This is now an all-inist. It's like a Pokemon, you know? He's evolving from his all-in into dun 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 ba da da. It's all-inner. think that's the noise that it makes. That's the average Pokemon noise, let's be real. Anyways, this push here from SOS is lethal though. Look at that Baneling detonation over there. Boom. I mean, detonation from the Disruptor, that is. 27 kills. I would have loved to see another Disruptor. I mean, yeah, it would have been really good, right? I feel like the Colossi are good here, but the Disruptors are really what are... Well, this Disruptor over here is really what is putting in the work. Blink finally done right now. This is revealed to the Zerg player as well. I feel like playing against SOS has got to be the worst, dude. His decisions are just something that we don't really see anymore. It reminds me a little bit of Parting. You know, Parting, absolute madman. Now that Viper is here, though. And that Viper is super good. Yep, yoink. No counter here from the Protoss against the Vipers, other than, I guess, Blink Stalker. Well, I mean, the Blink Stalker are going to work out just fine if you decide to send it underneath. In the end, I think the Zerg economy is just too big. I mean, I've been thinking that for the last 5 minutes, to be fair, and it hasn't happened yet. But I've got a feeling that eventually, this is bound to go in favor of the Zerg. Just Roach, Ravager, Ling. It's a good unit comp. It's so funny to me, though, how low this economy has been from SOS. It's so different. So this is what we're kind of missing right now, right? When it comes to high-level Protoss, it's so different than, like, Hero or, for example, Mexpex. Like, those guys are, for the most part, very clean, right? They're very clean executors. Like, for example, Serral as well for Zerg, super clean. And then you have guys like Dark that are like, ooh, I'm gonna do whatever the hell I feel like. SOS has got that vibe as well, but then for Protoss, where it seems like he just throws stuff at a wall, and sometimes something sticks, sometimes you make two assimilators and you saturate them, sometimes you don't. You really rely on your unit control instead and really try to play that strategic game. Ultimately though, Zerg, at least on paper, should outgrow this, and I think he is. Yeah, at this point, I mean, the Disruptors are gone. If it would have been 2 Disruptors though, yeah, Prism is dead. If this would have been 2 Disruptors, I think there would have been a lot of potential. Either way, well played, of course, by sOo, as he wins game number 2. That accidentally rhymed. Nice. Royal Blood, our final game for today. Okay, both players are properly warmed up now. I think overall, I'm a little bit more impressed by sOo, but it's SOS, right? So SOS has won many a tournament back in the day, not necessarily being the strongest mechanical player, but being the best strategic player, right? And in the end, this is a real-time strategy. So once again, it's gonna be that Twilight Council opener, and once again, SOS did not decide to block his opponent's natural expansion. That is so interesting to me. I don't know if I like it. I honestly think it's much better if you do block the opponent's natural, but it is what it is. Robo Facility on the back of it. Will we see Dark Templar this time around? Is it going to be straight Glaive to Depths again? We're not actually fully saturating these gases, so he actually doesn't have enough gas right when the Twilight finishes. Alright, there it goes. Glaive to Depths once again. sOo should have a little bit more practice against this right now as well. I noticed, by the way, sOo's opener is also a little strange. So pretty much every single Zerg player goes for Hatch first, into Gas Geyser, into Spawning Pool when they're playing a normal opener. But sOo is going Hatchery, into Spawning Pool, into Gas Geyser. Again, not the end of the world, really nothing all too significant, but it is noteworthy, you know? It's just a little bit odd, it's just a little bit different. Okay. Let's see, where do we go from here? So it's just gonna be good old Glaive to Depths. We're gonna do 4 gateways in total. This is a build that we see very frequently. Will we make a 3rd Nexus on the back of it? I mean, we should. Circling trying to scout out the Prism, but the Prism does not get spotted here. So at this point, sOo does not quite realize what he's playing against. You can see that reflected right now in the work account. Last game he was at 41 drones. Now he is at 43. Not a huge difference, but definitely something, yeah, where he can be blindsided quite a bit. So he decides to fire up a Spinecrawler, which I like. Roach Warren is going to finish up. We're once again just on a single Gas Geyser. sOo is playing a very similar game as he was previously, except he didn't know that this push was happening until a little bit later. For now, apparently, yeah, the Adepts have decided to just target fire down the Queen. I don't know if I like this build all too much, SOS. Like, it's good, but... What are we... Like, are we settling for creep clearing? There's the Robo Bay again. Maybe he's thinking the same thing as me, you know? He's like, yo, those disruptors, they did quite a bit of work. Or that disruptor did quite a bit of work. Maybe we can just make some more. No third nexus. These extended 2-base all-ins. I've played a fair share, I've played my fair share of Protoss, man. These extended 2-base all-ins feel so shaky to me. But then again, what exactly do you do here as Zerg? Yeah, SOS. Always making the opponent second guess themselves. A little bit of creep over here would be amazing, by the way. Ooh, that's a lot of Glaive to Depths. I wonder if he should have yeah, he could have engaged those, honestly. But they're kind of clumped up against that wall. I probably would have fought it. Anyways, Zerglings are needed over here as well, together with the Queens and the Roaches, to try and push all of this back. So this is not considered really an opener for Protoss, right? So he has done some damage, yes. But he committed to Glaive to Depths, units that fall off really rapidly in the middle stages of a game. His Nexus is 2 minutes later than it could have been with an ordinary opener. So, doesn't this just fall flat on its face if the game goes on for another 3 minutes? I'm inclined to imagine yes, it does. Once the Zerg armies grow, it's gonna be very hard to hold it with Glaive to Depths. Either way, third Nexus does go down. Disruptors are indeed coming up. We have the Prism Speed upgrade as well. Gravitic Drive, not an upgrade we see all too often at this point in the game, but Gravitic Drive is of course fantastic. So we have a Glaive to Depth opener into a Disruptor drop. I think SOS could have done this exact same opener with a couple less adepts at the start and taken this third Nexus a minute earlier. He would have been in a much better position, no? Now this also could be a little bit of a problem here, because those Zerglings don't mess around. Okay, he's gonna start re-walling himself in while going for the engagement on the other side of the map. Slow Roaches. Okay, not great to split with, but still doable. Nice detonation over there. Zerglings in the meantime, okay. They're met with a bunch of adepts on the other side of the map as well. SOS is breaking into the main base of the Zerg, shading everything away. I think we should split off a couple of them, no? To try and go after the middle line over here. Putting everything in one big ball does not seem to be optimal at all. Roaches are now starting to corner some of this army as well. And this is what I was talking about at this point in the game. Those adepts, I don't like this position at all. Those adepts fall off. Once the Roach numbers grow, the Roaches do not die very quickly. It would be very nice if the Zerg would have gone Hydras, but that's not really something you can force out. Okay, well, that was a stellar hold right there by sOo in the end. What started off as a fight that looked pretty good for the Protoss, I think was not controlled optimally at all. He could have split off a couple over here, maybe killed a handful of workers. I don't know why he shaded over in that direction. That did nothing for him. He just ended up getting surrounded from that corner of the main towards this corner over here instead. Like, at least go down over here. Maybe a bit of a miss rally. Anyhow, sOo making a transition. He's desperately trying to play a somewhat normal game to a Baneling Nest together with an Evo Chamber. Very late Evo Chamber. Ooh, hold up. Sorry. Looks like I missed a bit of a drop over here. That Prism, he's a speedy boy. Okay. So I think one of the one of the disruptors ended up going down. Yeah. Nice detonation though. It's a lot of Zerg blood. Alright, Zerglings once again going across. This time around SOS actually made over 50 workers. I know, he's adding on even more now. This man's dangerous on 2 bases. Imagine what he can do with 3. +1 melee still. I don't think I like this +1 melee here. I think this should be +1 missile. Honestly, with a transition this late towards Banelings, I don't mind the Banelings if this would be like a charge slot follow-up, but I don't think SOS is really playing charge slots at all. Banelings are still decent. Looks like we once again had a bunch of drones going down over here, by the way, by that one disruptor. But normally we see the +1 melee upgrade like this started up like literally 5 minutes earlier. And since Protoss is already going into Colossi, I don't think it's ideal. Now, I don't believe that SOS, has been spotted here. So sOo hasn't seen that his opponent actually scouted, or seen that his opponent is going into the Colossus play. But, I mean, it's a very small step to go from Disruptors into Colossi, right? So, it shouldn't really come as a surprise. Either way, +1 melee together with baneling speed. I think I would have rather liked to see something like Hydras into Lurkers or just Mass Roach Ravager. Not a bad call either. Eventually into Vipers, of course. 4 base play, yeah. sOO actually playing this pretty passively. He used to play the game a bit more active, but... Okay, if you can catch a Colossus here. The natural enemy here of these Zerglings. Oh no. That's costly. Nice save right there by SOS. This Disruptor, by the way, now 20 kills. Would have been nice if the second Disruptor was here, right? But anyways, here we go. Big fight just about to take place once again. Imagine the second Disruptor here. Would have been massive. Makes it much harder for the Zerg to engage. Sorry, what just killed that Colossus? Hold up. Did Brenda kill the Colossus? Did the Queen just kill a Colossus by herself? So this Colossus over here, did he target fire his... Oh no, it's just a corrosive bile that connected right there at the very end. I was a little confused as to why that one died. So he literally walked into the bile? Nice. Didn't even consider that really to be an option, but... Okay. Anyways, that is a Colossus down and a Disruptor down. And that does make the staying power here of this army a lot scarier. Yeah, with the second Disruptor, Zerg really cannot chase off creep at all. Disruptor once again available. Okay. sOO is trying to build up his army. But how do you engage this properly? Well, not by biling your own banelings. Sorry, I'm being very critical this game, guys. It's just that I've casted a lot of top-level ZVP lately. And you can notice some differences, right? Not trying to be a jerk here. I mean, a little bit, maybe. No. Disruptor, moving forward. Yeah, and now we're at the point where Zerg has heavily outgrown the Protoss. When Purifications are on cooldown, and I haven't seen a Robo unit join here in ages. I feel like we could have continued production out of that robotics facility a while ago, but apparently we've decided not to. If there's only one Disruptor, the Roaches and the Ravagers can definitely start pushing through. +1 melee here is done. SOS. Yeah, no. Okay, at least he does split against this, but his worker count really wasn't anything to really write home about either, right? So sOO has now killed 22 probes, which is, well, one more than SOS has done with all of that early game harassment of his. I think there may have actually been a cheeky little roll-by earlier as well. He actually leaves a few banelings behind. There may have been a roll-by that I missed earlier that has forced SOS into this all-in. If there's anybody comfortable playing the all-in, I guess it's him. But I feel like this dance is ultimately gonna come down to the same thing that we saw in game number 2, where Protoss just doesn't have enough stuff. Like, economy, it's 39 workers versus 67. Yeah, all of these traits are cost efficient for the Protoss. It's a couple thousand minerals less here that the Protoss player has lost. But unless he gets a Disruptor hit that lands in the middle of this Zerg ball, I've got a feeling that this is gonna just slowly bleed out over time. Yeah, this third Nexus is completely dry here. Love the fact, by the way, that sOO decided to keep those Banes alive over there. That's kind of cool. Ooh, now we're starting to roll into whatever we can. Stalker's distracted. Colossus goes down. Disruptor does have a Nova available, but doesn't use it. If this Disruptor goes down, I think that's actually pretty much the end for this entire Protoss army. It's kind of funny how it seems to leverage on that one Disruptor here. Because, like, as soon as that's gone, pure Stalker with one Colossus is not going to do anything. I really think we should have continued the Disruptor production. Like, as soon as this fight started, it was obvious it wasn't gonna end anytime soon. It's a relatively cheap unit. I think it would have been really good. Because this is not a Zerg army that, you know, has Vipers on the horizon or anything like that. Oh, okay. Well, that's the Disruptor down. He got a little bit overly aggressive. sOO not dropping the ball when it comes to his focus. And, well, because of that, he dropped the ball. The Disruptor, that is. Alrighty. Now sOO is on the hunt. And indeed, it's gonna be him who obtains the victory in the GSL Code S qualifier. Very curious to see how he'll do in the upcoming season. Of course, I'll make sure to cast some of his games as well if they turn out to be good. So make sure you subscribe as soon as those videos go live in probably a couple of weeks from now. For now though, have a great rest of your day. Don't forget to smile, and I'll see you once again tomorrow for another video.